Welcome back to Montana this morning. The time now is 6:29. Joining us on Zoom this morning, we have Kendra Shaw. She's the Billings City Councilwoman for Ward 1, and she's joining us today because she's part of the Citizens for a Safer Billings organization. And we're going to talk about what Billings voters can expect to see on the upcoming mill levy, or the ballot in November, the mill levy. Tell us, how do you hope this mill levy will help out the city of Billings?
Well, first, thank you so much for giving us the time to come on here and talk to the voters, because ballots actually went out yesterday. So the first wave will be arriving in people's mailboxes later today. So that's exciting. We are very excited about this levy package. So the plan for this is I'm going to give you a couple of the expected outcomes first, so people get an idea of kind of what we're going for. We're trying to improve the safety of our neighborhoods. We're trying to increase efficiency with our responding teams that are responding to emergencies. We're trying to collaborate better with our federal, state, and county partners. We're trying to invest in mental health and substance abuse for the very first time. The city is going to be actually at the table doing that. We want to hold criminals accountable. So this whole package is $7.1 million, covers the entire legal spectrum of Billings, everything from police, fire, legal, courts, code enforcement, and all the little pieces in between. And the reason for that is because the Chief of Police, Chief St. John, has continually told City Council, please do not add more officers if you're not also going to take care of the rest of the criminal justice system, because we can rack up cases, but if we don't have the prosecutors and the judge to actually hold the criminals accountable, people are going to end up just walking. And then that's not what we want either. So I think that's really important for people to understand, is that this includes both more boots on the ground for police, fire, and our first responders, but it also includes the back end pieces, which are really, really important to make sure that when these arrests happen, criminals are actually getting through the justice system in the way that it's meant to work.
And that might be part of the answer to my next question. This will all come at the cost of homeowners in the city of Billings, and they might be experiencing some levy fatigue, because it was just, I believe, last year that another levy was passed for public safety. So tell us, what is the difference, or what would you say to them in hopes that they would vote yes on this?
Thank you for the opportunity to address that, because I know this is very confusing for a lot of people. So I'm going to give you a quick history of public safety in Billings. So the last levy that actually passed in Billings was in 2004, which is now 17 years ago. In 2014, as crime was really starting to rise, City Council went back to the voters, but they turned that levy down. So in the intervening 6 years between 2014 and 2020, City Council said, crime is rising really fast, and we have some money in savings. Just go out, they said to the city manager, go out and hire more police officers, more first responders, use the savings account to pay for it. So they did that for a number of years. And then in 2020, the savings was gone. And we still had about $5 million of ongoing public safety expenses that had been accrued from hiring all of these new people that the city had no way to pay for. So originally, last year's levy and this year's levy were part of the same package. But because of the pandemic, City Council said, I think this is just too much of an ask for voters in 2020. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We don't know what's going to happen in the next year. We want to ask for just the absolute minimum we have to make sure we don't have to make any cuts. And so that's what the levy was last year. It filled most of that gap so that we did not have to lay off any first responders in the pandemic, which is a huge win for Billings. But we were not able to add any additional resources. This year's levy is about adding those resources. It's about saying, okay, we mostly addressed that budget problem. There's a tiny piece left. They'll be addressed in this levy. But now we want to add the actual staff that we've needed for a long time in Billings. So I'll just give you quick for the highlights. For the police department, it's 14 sworn officers, 14 non-sworn officers. And the reason we're adding some non-sworn officers is because we did a peer-reviewed study last year and found out that we have police officers doing a lot of stuff they don't need to be doing, filing reports, cataloging evidence. We can get, a crime scene technician to do that, which frees up a detective to actually do the detective work. So we're trying to bring on some more support staff for the police department. And that's kind of one example of the sort of efficiency creating that we're trying to do to both save taxpayers money, but also to achieve those outcomes that we talked about. That's really the important thing, right? We want to make sure our emergency response times are as small as they can be. We want to improve neighborhood safety across the whole city.
Right.
So that's the difference between the levy. And so that's why I can stand here and say I really would encourage you to vote for this. I strongly support it because these two things were part originally of the same package. We separated them out because of the pandemic. And so now we're back again a year later saying this is the second part.
Yes, part two. All right. Well, Kendra, thank you so much for joining us this morning and clarifying all that. I think that's something a lot of people had on their mind and needed to hear as well. So we thank you so much for joining us, and you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this.